Senior card gauge mortgage. No financing, no problemo. And I I think about it. I think about it once a week.
I've never wanted to have sex with a pot pie, but like, I'd have sex with that pot pie.
We're all weak to stepping on nails.
Let me preface this by saying I wrote a script.
Daytona Beach is like 2 mild inconveniences from being a post-apocalyptic wasteland anyway.
So many of my tabs say semen.
Are you guys ready for this weird, horny adventure that we're all about to go on?
You can't handcuff me for skanking.
This motherfucker gaslights you.
Diet Coke and Sorrow will be chapter 4.
And against all odds, Kyle, we became those swirly weirdos.
This whole podcast is a very negative mouthfeel. Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how the only thing as powerful as the power of friendship is the power of early internet nostalgia.
Whew.
That is
Is
an
that
absolute
right?
fact.
Yeah.
I mean, think if you didn't spend time doing Kingdom of Loathing at some point in your life, what were you doing?
Yeah, our episode on Flash games will definitely confirm this.
Yep.
That's actually what I thought about when I wrote that opening, because, guys, listeners, everyone, for me, this flavor text today is about 2 decades in the making, and I'm super excited. So the other debaters here, they know what we're going to talk about, but for everyone else today, thanks to Butt Thwomp Nation member Master Spectre, I have the privilege of taking you back to simpler times of 2002. Not that we really need to talk about what was happening in society in 2002, but they were at least simpler times. And I'm going to tell you
Were they?
about... they were times.
They were times.
They were times.
We today have the privilege to talking to you about the earliest and purest content of the internet, and that is Homestar Runner of homestarrunner.com.
I'm still a little caught up on 2002 being simpler times.
Yeah.
They were simpler times for us because we were
Because we were
12.
I was a 12 at the time.
Do you guys-
We were babies.
I didn't have any cares in the world.
Do you guys remember the Iraq War? That's,
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still relevant right now.
Well, this feels bad. Anyway, so, dear listeners, to take you on this journey of nostalgia, I have recruited my 3 friends, Matt, Deltoidus Rex Cole, Kyle, Great J-Orb Harper, and Andrew Fahuwagods Henderson.
thank you.
Oh, this feels so good. I'm so stoked on this.
Yeah.
I'm super, super pumped for this. Again, thank you, Master Spectre. This is such a cool thing that we get to do today. If you're not aware, those are 3 just fun references from Homestar content. Deltoidus Rex was from the Peasant Quest game. If you crank the well wrong, I think, or too many times, they say you sprain your Deltoidus Rex, which is not a real thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, in case you're curious. Great J-Orb is one of my favorite Homestar clips where Coach Z can't say job right. So and they try and teach him to say job right, and it's very funny. And then Fahuwagods is a throwaway line from a Strong Bad email that then becomes a music video later. Since we are going to talk about so much internet content, we don't have a library of images, but in the show notes, I will link some of the videos that we referenced today, just so you can appreciate them later, because, oh man, the audio didn't age great on all of them, just the quality.
I
but
watched
the content's good.
I watched one of these before we started recording, and the first thing immediately apparent to me was like, oh man, remember how everything in the early 2000s had that hiss? Everything has that hiss.
Well, because I guarantee you every single one of those videos was recorded on the little like tan colored stick mic that everybody's dad had.
Yep.
Yeah, audio didn't hold up great. We'll tell you that. So like we do on all these flavor texts, before we get started, I would love to just go around and hear from each one of you what your knowledge, experience, thoughts, favorite quotes of Homestar Runner are before we kind of get into the history of it.
Yeah, I'll go first. I definitely, as the baby of the podcast, came into a very late Homestar Runner. I found a lot of Homestar Runner animations on albinoblacksheep.com, the internet aggregate site that I hung out on.
You baby, you
Yeah.
child.
Degenerate.
I know. I'm the actual worst. So I know a lot of Homestar Runner stuff secondhand. I definitely rode the wave late, but when I was like, when it was 2002, 2003, I was
Born.
no too young for porn. Definitely too young for porn. Again,
No, I said born.
Oh no! All right, well that's better. I'm gonna cut this bit out.
It's a different
Don't
joke.
feel good about that. I was not born in 2002. I was 9, so I was being watched by babysitters who knew Homestar Runner or like had camp counselors or fucking vacation Bible school assistants who were 15 and knew Homestar Runner, and so I got a lot of the stuff early and then watched the videos 3 or 4 years later and connected the dots.
Yeah, I know Homestar Runner intimately. I distinctly remember early 2004, 2005. I mean, this was like, honestly, like if you had to summarize my high school experience, it was like reciting Homestar Runner and Family Guy quotes with my friends. Like that is exclusively what we did. That's how we communicated with each other. I would come home from school every Monday and I would go on homestarrunner.com because they uploaded every Monday. And this was back in the day when you had a list of like 30 individual websites that you would go to every day. And I'd go to Homestar Runner and then I'd go to Penny Arcade and then I go to like a bunch of other like internet, like web comics.
Yeah.
So, I played Peasant's Quest, the original text-based adventure where you can throw baby.
Throw baby.
That early internet humor was something, wasn't it?
It sure was. I evolved with Strong Bad from his old desktop to Lappy 486 or whatever it was when he upgraded his computer. I was there for every single Halloween episode, watching that in the computer lab. I'm here, baby. I'm so pumped for this.
Guys, I might have only watched like 4 of Homestar Runner videos in my entire life.
Oh man,
it's really surprising because I've been chronically online since 2004, and Homestar Runner just missed me. I know a lot of the references because, like Andrew, all my friends quoted it endlessly. I had friends with, Strong Bad or the Cheat shirts. Never watched it. I think legitimately I went to search for it once, knowing the quote from the intro video Todd sent us, homestarrunner.net, it's .com, and I could not find it because I think I put it in homestarrunner.net or whatever. And I was just like, all right, can't find it.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, I guess. So I know it. Like I knew Napoleon Dynamite for 2 years before I watched that movie too. But like I've watched maybe four or five of these videos in my entire life. One of them being today.
I feel like it's really important to point out to other people who may be a baby like me or more of a baby than me, that all of the things that we're talking about with Homestar Runner is like 2002 to 2005. And YouTube didn't even come out until 2005. So if you heard what Kyle just said, we're like, what do you mean you couldn't find a video on the internet? It's because videos on the internet didn't live in one place yet.
And it's weird because I knew Snakes on a Plane before it was a movie. I knew knew every line of I'm the Juggernaut bitch or Leroy Jenkins, but Homestar Runner just completely missed me.
Actually, Matt, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really interesting point because I think while this feels so quintessential to me, it's only because I was very much in the like very thin Venn diagram that hit me at just the right point. And I would say Todd is in that same boat where like this was specifically if you were in high school in 2005. You know what Homestar Runner is. If you weren't, you probably don't. or there is it is less. I don't speak in absolutes, but it's much less likely. Like I would argue that no one has gone on to watch Homestar Runner for years. When Flash died, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I would imagine they lost most of their audience.
If you weren't steeped in it like Todd and Andrew were, and then didn't luck into it like Matt, you might have just missed the boat like I did.
So
and I
so
missed it by a couple years, like, and that was it.
Right. Because there's just so much out there. I mean, it's like, it's like there's a new Netflix show every week now. This is what that was. I mean, I was the same way. Like my friends watched Red versus Blue, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't quote 2 episodes of Red versus Blue. Same idea.
That said, now that we've said Red versus Blue, listeners, if you end up commissioning a Red versus Blue flavor text at any point in time in the history of this podcast, you and I are gonna have a conference
Todd will ascend
call
to Nirvana, and his life will be complete.
But not to repeat all the things Andrew said, my experience is very similar with Homestar Runner to his, and so to timestamp myself, 2005 was my junior year in high school when I was on, because I was super cool, guys, and so I was on the yearbook and the newspaper staff, and so because of that, we had the media lab every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I think, morning, and we would always do the same thing Andrew said. You said some dates here, and I think we will get to some of those things because you nailed a lot of the stuff that happened here. But I want to start from the beginning here. So, what is Homestar Runner? Where did it come from? And this is bits that I didn't know until I did the research. And so, Homestar Runner originates back to '96, where there were 2 guys at the University of Georgia, Mike Chapman and Craig Zobel. And there's some context I saw online of why they did this, but they made a children's book titled "The Homestar Runner Enters the Strongest Man in the World Contest."
It sounds like an episode of Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Or an album title for Coheed and Cambria.
So everything that I read online, if there was any additional context to this, it was... I saw a video online that had said they were in a library and they were in the children's book section and they were like, "These are bad. We can do better." I don't know about that. Also, I think '96 was a year of an Olympics. And so
I think
maybe that had some context.
The Atlanta Olympics.
That would be really topical.
I think you're right.
If that was, there you go. So these guys were at University of Georgia, Atlanta Olympics.
Atlanta, yep.
And so in this book, it only had 3 of the characters that we know now. It had Homestar Runner, which, we'll make sure the cover art is of the characters of Homestar Runner, but that's really the only image you need here today. Homestar Runner is a goofy-looking character with no arms, really long legs, a jaw that goes out a little too far, and a shirt with a star on it. And then the other 2 characters in the book were Strong Bad, which is certainly a crowd favorite. Strong Bad probably gets more screen time than Homestar Runner at this point.
Yeah.
And the way I would describe Strong Bad is a luchador who is shirtless with boxing gloves, but he gives off Wario vibes, which I think fits. And then the third character was a character named The Cheat, which is like a short yellowish character animal that just does meeps for noises.
It's a Pikachu parody. It's very clearly a Pikachu parody.
I'm good with that.
Knowing they made him in 1996, it's even stronger. Like it was like a year after Pokemon launched. The year it came out in the States, maybe. Yeah.
Well, so those two, Mike and Craig, we get forward a couple years, and they showed their books to some friends, but they decide to do some Flash animation. And so they actually, they start a website and they put a video up on it, and their very first cartoon was actually made in Mario Paint, and it was called Super NES, and it is something to watch. It doesn't make any sense. It is just like erratic and weird.
Did any of you guys play Mario Paint?
Yeah.
You had,
there's a Fly Swatter game that had a rad background soundtrack.
Yeah, that game was awesome. That game ruled. Anyway.
Well, and it was like, if you played Mario Paint, you had a rich friend. And if you didn't have a rich friend, I was just gonna say, if you weren't the rich friend, or if you didn't have a rich friend, you were the rich friend / only child, because it had a big tablet. We're not here to talk about Mario Paint, though.
It was a mouse. It was a mouse and a mouse pad.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so anyway, their graphics were really basic, but they were doing flash animation. These two guys, one was kind of doing the animation, one was kind of doing the voice acting, and they'd work together. And then it was a couple years after this, so we're now firmly in the 2000s, that they gave that website a big facelift. It's like 2001, and they started working a lot harder on those flash games. And they also brought in Mike's brother Matt to help with that flash upgrade because he was, I guess, better at it. And so this is when we start getting the characters that look like what you know, what you love. And at this point, we get even more characters. So we have those first three, and now we get some other characters that everyone recognizes. So we get Marzipan, a character that kind of looks like a feather duster with a ponytail. Marzipan's voice, I believe, was done by... It was either Mike or Matt's girlfriend at the time, now wife. She is the only female character in the cast of characters. We also get Strong Sad, who is not a sad elephant. I put in our notes a sad elephant. He looks like a sad elephant, and that's actually a joke in an episode. He is equivalent to the Toby of The Office of a Homestar runner. We get Strong Mad, which is just like a brick wall of a dude in a wrestling singlet.
He's literally a square.
He's absolutely a square.
He really speaks through grunts, mostly. We get Coach Z, a character in all green wearing a backwards hat whose defining characteristic is pronouncing words incorrectly and with a strange accent. I don't know what you call that accent.
It's like Western Great Lakesian.
I was trying to get Cleveland in there somehow because he definitely has a Cleveland A, but he murders it.
Yeah, he definitely he was like an army brat, but he only exclusively lived by the lake.
A couple more that we get. So we get the King of Town, which is just your token king-looking character. Beard, crown. I didn't realize that where they live is supposedly titled Free Country USA. I read that in the Wikipedia today.
How very 1996 of them.
Yeah. We also get Bubs, a blue-faced character whose voice certainly doesn't sound like a caricature of Bill Cosby. I can't not describe it that way. And so...
2000 was a different time, everyone. We didn't know
he sounds like
Bill Cosby's crimes.
Bub sounds like all my friends' dads.
Yeah. And then one of my personal favorite characters, the Poopsmith. He is the joke of the Poopsmith is always, and the Poopsmith, he smiths, well, you know. Yeah, so basically we get these two brothers and their friend. They start with these small stories that we're focusing on Homestar Runner. He's the hero and Strong Bad is the villain, and he makes things inconvenient, and that's fine. But that wasn't taking. Those stories, those cartoons weren't really catching what they wanted. And so Matt, the younger brother that they brought in, he had said hey, we should do more content that isn't telling stories of what they're doing, but it's what they're not doing. It's the stuff they're doing in their downtime, the stories between the stories. And so that's
cool.
when, yeah. So again, we're in 2001. The website's not really doing a lot, but they're making this content. And 2001 is actually when they launched the Strong Bad emails. And so that's some of their earliest content and longest running content. And so when I say Strong Bad emails, it is exactly what it sounds like. They were getting fan mail, people emailing them, and they would then answer them from Strong Bad. And like Andrew had said, that stuff was coming out weekly. And it's funny listening to Matt in an interview. He says that they were getting threatening emails for a while when they would be like, where's the new Strong Bad email? We want them to answer our emails. And Matt was like, it was kind of cool to get that, but also not. It's both great and terrible that this is all happening. And so that is when we start seeing this content pick up, 2001, 2002. And I found this funny. By 2003, all three of the guys were able to quit their normal jobs and just use the website with the money it was making from its merch to just do it full time.
Good,
Man,
good for them.
That's wild that in 2003, a free website, a free webcomic, essentially, of a flash site could be a full-time job for three of them just on merch alone. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing to emphasize. On merch alone, they didn't advertise on the website.
Mm-mm.
I read something that they weren't actually tracking their traffic either. And so they were just, it was just the stuff they were selling.
It's amazing.
I mean, at the time, I can't imagine tracking was super sophisticated.
Right?
They probably knew just enough.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that video crashed the website. I guess we have to buy more bandwidth. And that was
Yeah.
probably the extent of their tracking for a while, at least.
I mean, it's such an interesting look at early 2000s internet culture. The fact that, I mean, 3 people could support themselves off of a website in 2001 is already kind of crazy. And I'm curious, like, what that monetary number was for them to all quit their full-time
Sure.
jobs. But at the same time, like, other websites were not incredibly lucrative in 2001. Like, monetization was not a word that people knew. Like, Newgrounds was probably pulling in enough money to support a couple of people, but
That was where I went, was like
Yeah.
Newgrounds.
Was Newgrounds around? I thought I had in my head Newgrounds was 2004, 2005.
I don't know when
Maybe.
I googled when we started when Newgrounds, or I googled when we started the episode when Newgrounds started, and Tom launched the magazine in '96, but I don't know when the website
Hard to
launched.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
the-
got their wiki pulled up. 96 they went online. I'm sorry.
The thing that I remember as somebody who consumed this regularly is that their website was so clean
Yes.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and just generally designed so much more organized. It was more organized. It was designed just generally better. And was devoid of ads. I mean, even Newgrounds, like you'd go on a Newgrounds and you're just getting inundated
Bombarded.
with
Yeah.
garbage. And this site, like every inch of space was used. Like there were like they would hide little Easter eggs and little secret things in the menus, and like everything was like there were games and there was voices and everything. Like every menu item had like like a little voice to it. Like it was just like it was created with such like care and time.
Which
really stuck out.
if you go to the homestarrunner.com website today, it still has that.
Mhm.
Like it is
It's
still
wild.
that same energy where, I mean, they've added some new buttons like they might add like their favorite videos button or whatever, but like it's still a clean website with like 5 buttons. It looks like you looked at it 20 years ago.
What's wild about all that? Like, because I'm familiar with the UI of this website. I'd say 7 years, between 5 and 7 years later, that layout was copied by every like children's TV network website, like Nick.com and the Disney website both had like copied that UI and like had the little animation when you scrolled over the button you were going to click and everything. Like they really laid out what the early internet, like that era of the internet, I shouldn't say early internet, but like what the 2000s era of the internet looked like, because the UI was so clean.
Did you guys being Andrew and Todd, who were on homestarrunner.com in 2003, what sort of merch were they selling? Because I'm on their merch store right now, and they sell absolutely everything.
Yeah, all the
everything you
things.
could ever want. And I cannot imagine that they were producing everything you could ever want in 2003. So, like, did 3 dudes buy their way out of their jobs by selling t-shirts? And if so,
Yeah.
holy shit.
It was, if I remember, sorry, Todd, and cut
No,
in
you're
if
good.
if you've
Answer.
already got this. If I remember correctly, it was t-shirts and like t-shirts, coffee mug stickers. But then it didn't take very long until they were doing like CDs. And like I said, they were making games. Like you could buy it wasn't Peasant's Quest, but I think there was a Trogdor game that you could buy or something, if I'm remembering that correcly. They were doing a lot of stuff, like actual like making products.
If I remember correctly from and this was a few, 2005, it would have been, it was a lot of like skateware as well. Like I think that those communities overlapped somewhat. So I saw hoodies, shoes, like chain wallets and
Yeah,
and
that's a
things
good
like
point.
that. Yeah.
Think like the Hot Topic
Yeah.
culture, like that kind of thing. Like anything you find at a Hot Topic.
I would
But in
buy into that.
2005, yeah.
Yeah, that feels right. I don't remember checking out their merch in 2005, but I have to assume it was that. It was the easily done things. But like I said, so these three guys were able to quit their jobs. It's also worth noting that sometime in this range, Craig kind of left the team, and he went on to do more writing elsewhere, which we'll talk a bit about. Well, I guess we'll go into now. So like Craig, since then, when he left, you now could see Craig. I just had his last name here. You now could see Craig Zobel's writing credentials on things like American Gods and Westworld.
Wow.
So
Wow.
dude actually he has some episode credits as director of both of those shows. So Craig left this and did fine.
Which,
so it's some
like, same era, Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Like, that's not unheard. Like, there was a lot
Yeah.
of talent online at that time. And I'm like happy and pleased for him, but I'm not surprised at all. Because wow.
Well, Donald Glover was like in UBC or UCB
Yeah.
and all that.
But I mean, he got
but,
his
yeah.
start on Derek Comedy.
Derek
Like,
Comedy, yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, and so to kind of package it a bit different, Matt and Mike may have been the two that are being supported by the website, and it's also worth noting that I think they had their parents helping them with some of like the tracking and the business stuff. But I mean, still in the end, 2 or 3 people getting held up on a salary from a website in 2003 that wasn't nefarious is pretty good. And also, when you talk to either of these two, they'll tell you that run from 2002 to 2005 that we're kind of talking about was when they were most creative and pumping out the best content and doing that sort of thing.
Greg Zobel directed 7 episodes of Mayor of Easttown. Like,
Great.
He's done great for himself.
It's just so wild to think back to, like, again, 3 people making enough money to quit their jobs on the internet, period, let alone in 2005. And, like, I've always loved internet history and internet culture. There's an alternative Nexus event universe where I don't have a hate of academia and school and actually stayed in school to study internet history. But do you know how hard it is for 3 people to make enough money on the internet to quit their jobs right now? That shit's impossible. I've been trying to do it for 10 years. It's impossible.
I was gonna say like intimately so. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so when we look at this, they continued to more or less create regular content up through about 2009. They shared that. I guess it was a little bit after, because they did share that the website was running and financially supporting them through about 2010.
Wow.
Which is again crazy, because they didn't run ads and they didn't like sell out. Now, granted, they had partnered with a couple different operations. They were part of. They had worked with They Might Be Giants before on a project, and so they definitely had partnerships, but they didn't sell out in the phrase of like putting ads everywhere. And so it was around 2010 that was when the website kind of stopped being fiscally supportive for both of them. And that is also when they stopped producing regular content. And it was largely because Matt and Mike, these guys that have been doing this for almost 9 years, they had families, and suddenly they weren't able to support themselves, a partner, and children on a Flash website that was doing comics and videos once a week. So it was kind of at that point that they did take that like step away from doing this sort of thing.
Which again, like, they made enough money to almost support their family selling T-shirts on a Flash website in 2010.
Yeah,
God
wild.
damn, dude.
2010. No ads is the one that gets me. Like they didn't sell out. I don't like the term sell out,
Sure,
but they did.
Yeah.
they didn't
Amazing.
monetize. Yeah, and I mean, it just goes to show you that Homestar Runner is recession proof.
God damn, you're so right. It is.
Yeah.
Well, so since we've kind of got some of this history, it gets you to at least 2010. We had this break, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened after this break and if they ever come back to create more content. Spoiler alert, the answer is yes. After we take this short break. All right, so we're back. So last we had said it was about 2010. Mike and Matt, the brothers that were doing the animation and the voices, had kind of decided to stop and step away and go back to family stuff. And so at that point, we get these two guys, and they actually take off and they start becoming writers and directors and animators for different series that, after looking, like they have a pretty good resume. They were either one of them or both of them at any point in time were involved in Yo Gabba Gabba.
Wow.
They were part of, they did some of the animation for Camp, which was a Rooster Teeth animation.
Mm-hmm.
They were part of Gravity Falls.
Damn.
Wow.
Which, I never watched Gravity Falls. I just know the intro slaps.
I've heard it's really good. It's supposed to be like
Yeah.
excellent cartoon.
Yeah.
They were also part of they partnered again with They Might Be Giants to direct the experimental film music video.
That rips.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
which
do remember that one. That song, I love that song.
I believe that also had Strong Bad in that music video. And of course they did some other things, but those are the ones that at least jumped off to me. And so for the better part of those 4 years, they just really didn't do Homestar Runner content of anything. Outside of a few select videos that they had dropped to either promote or be part of like Comic-Con appearances. They
Sure.
had done like shorts leading up to that or to reveal there. But yeah, for 4 years, they didn't do anything Homestar Runner.
Which 10 years of Homestar Runner, like, don't blame them.
Yeah.
Time to do other things. Made good early 2000s money on it. Time to do something else.
I mean, hell, most TV shows don't last that long. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, they are there's a huge demand for this. I mean, like we said, they were financially stable and they were getting emails bullying them to make more content.
Mhm.
So like the demand was certainly there. So it puts us here at about 2014, and Matt had moved back to Atlanta where Mike was after wrapping up his work on Gravity Falls, and they decided that April 1st, 2014, they were just going to drop a video. They dropped their April 1st, 2014 video, which is exclusively built around explaining what Homestar Runner is and making fun of them for being gone for a really long time. There's actually a Strong Bad email joke in there about how they're still using Windows 98 or something. Like it's very silly. It's very, very good.
The internet broke. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
just
yeah.
every white 20 something at the time just lost their minds when that video dropped. I remember that very well.
And it was at that point that they then started putting out more content. I don't know how regular it was back in 2014, but I did kind of take a look to see what they're doing now. And it seems like they put something out every couple of weeks to a month. And so I'm guessing that it was maybe a bit more frequent back then if they're like in between projects or whatever. But starting then in 2014, they've just been putting out content. And you had mentioned this, so it's important to say it now. So Flash was the thing that was discontinued in 2020, which is interesting that it just couldn't work that way anymore. And so now if you see any Homestar Runner content, it is exclusively put out through YouTube, but linked on their website. So homestarrunner.com, I think, is their YouTube username, which is kind of funny that they continued with that joke.
That's really good.
is it just like just computer animated or computer drawn now? Like
It still looks the same as what they were doing. I mean, it's certainly cleaner than like the
sure
earlier
like
stuff.
what South
Sure,
Park
they
does.
use
Yeah.
better software, but just get
100%.
yeah,
Can
they got that Disney money now.
Yep.
Can somebody who knows things more than me explain why Flash died and why it doesn't work anymore?
It was
I-
a program made in 1995, and it had been like updated, not rebuilt, not like ever cleaned up, just continually added upon for what 25 years.
Right.
It was a huge
Yeah.
part of it was a big security risk. To be able to run Flash, you had to often use outside plugins, which exposed your computer to
Remember
viruses.
Java? Same idea.
Yeah. And finally, Adobe just stopped supporting it. They were like, "No, we're not going to do Flash anymore. It's been 25 years. Move
But
on." And
Adobe bought it from Macromedia,
yeah,
and that was kind of what tanked it, because Adobe was like, "Oh, we have our own. Oh, by the way, actually, you can get Creative Suite and use Premiere because and also give us $200 instead of this free software because capitalism."
So it goes to say that Homestar Runner, as we knew and loved it, is recession proof, but not capitalism proof. So there's that.
Yeah.
And it's also fun that if you go to the Homestar Runner website, it's still like, it really hasn't changed much in the last 5 years or so, maybe even further back. But they have, instead of saying like new episodes released every Monday, the tagline is that it is, quote, updated every someday.
Love that.
Which I thought was really, really fun.
I like that. I like that they're, continuing it on, but in a way that they're not pressured to make content every week, so they can do whatever they want. Like, cool.
It's like one of those things because I can't imagine Homestar Runners getting new audience. Like, it's literally just exists for the nostalgia.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that was very, very good. Much like Kyle had said, that they understand their limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Like they know, like, we're not going to stick to a schedule. This is a thing we do that probably is still making them some money. I mean, their store is expansive.
Maybe not quit their job money anymore, but like, yeah,
it's a non-zero amount.
Yeah,
college fund for kid money that will help.
Yeah, I mean, at time of recording, their last upload on YouTube was 2 weeks ago. It's got 51,000 views. They've got just under 2,500 subscribers. So they've got like a 20% return rate, which is double what is considered good YouTube return. So I'm sure they're making something.
Well, so let's talk a bit about their content. So that's kind of the last thing that I do want to do on this, because obviously you got some of the history, some of the catch up. Obviously, Homestar Runner itself is based on these like silly webtoons that are stories. I think one of the most famous ones is that Strong Bad wants something to drink but doesn't want to get it himself, so he comes up with a clever ploy to get Homestar Runner to go get him something to drink. That's the equation that they were going for. But however, aside from those, and like I had mentioned earlier, the one where Coach Z can't say job right, so they spend 6 minutes trying to teach him how to say job right. It's that silly stuff, but these like sub-series came out of that. And so I wanted to talk about 3 of them, or 3 like products that came out of this that you probably know the best. And so I'd already mentioned one of their earliest ones they did were the Strong Bad emails. Anyone who knows Homestar Runner probably has a favorite Strong Bad email, or at least a couple that they love to quote. And so Strong Bad emails, kind of like Andrew had mentioned, they were Strong Bad answering emails on his really old computer. And then partway through, it's a plot point. He gets a new computer, the Lappy some number.
486.
486. So there you go. And so for me, and I'll link some of these in the show notes, this gave us some of my favorite Strong Bad emails that include Techno, where he writes a techno song, which we were joking about it off the air. If you've ever heard the techno email, you now have a specific sound in your head.
Yep.
It is there, and it's going to be there for a while. My personal favorite one is called Crying, and that is where they introduce a 3-legged dog named Lil Brother.
I love Lil Brother.
The premise of the email is Strong Bad is asked if he's ever made Homestar Runner cry, and he goes, yes, a lot. and he says mostly by showing him this picture of a 3-legged dog I named Lil Brother, and it's very, very, very good. And then his Strong Sad says, did you draw Lil Brother because you think that's what I am? And Strong Bad goes, no, I draw you as a 2-legged elephant named Tenderfoot. it's so fun.
Can I quickly cite my favorite one?
please.
because I think about it literally like all the time. My personal favorite is Kind of Cool, where they created, I forget the prompt, but this basically culminated in the creation of Senor Card Gauge, which is an independent business owner who owns Senor Card Gauge Mort Gauge, and it's just strong bad, but like human size, and he's got like a beer gut, but he's still wearing the luchador mask, but he's got these like wireframe glasses over top of the luchador mask. And they do part of it is they do a commercial, and it's like his voice is like strong bad but like lame. So like, Senor Card Gauge Mortgage, no financing, no problemo. And I think about it. I think about it once a week.
Oh man.
If this is what we're doing, my favorite has always been techno. And I think anytime in my life that I've been in a room and somebody's like double clutched on the light switch, the only thing I can think of is, oh, it's just the cheat flipping the lights upside down again. Like,
Oh man. Well, and I think the other one that ends up being really, really good is one of the early ones called Dragon, which speaking of Dragon, that then is what brought us, I think, another crowd favorite, which if you're not familiar with properties of Homestar Runner, but you're a Guitar Hero fan, you may be familiar with Trogdor the Burninator.
Okay, let me ask this question.
Go for
What
it.
came first? Dragon, the strong bad email, or the song?
It was the email that brought upon the song.
yeah.
And then
So-
okay.
In the email Dragon, the prompt is so stupid because all these are super stupid. They're so stupid. The email is like, can you show off your artistic talents? And so he says, I'm gonna draw a dragon, and you start with an S, and then he draws like this dragon that is just like an S shape with like with like beefier features. And he goes, no, and then he erases it. He goes, you start with an S, and then you give it one beefy arm.
One
yeah,
slightly smaller S.
yeah. So he draws Trogdor the Burninator that you know and love, and then the rest of the email is all the other characters also drawing dragons, and so what is it? Strong Mad just carves dragon into the table.
It's Dagron.
Dagron, that's it. Yeah, and then Strong Sad draws a really, really good dragon and explains the technique and everything, and that's when I realized that he is the Toby Flenderson of Strong Bad emails.
That line of, I said consummate, Reese. Consummate. Guy wouldn't know art if it came up and bit him in the face is in my head every day.
I think Dragon is the one I'm most familiar with. The one most people have tried to get me on board with Homestar Runner.
I think that was the first real like breakout success,
Yeah,
because
I'd agree.
Yeah.
because Trogdor the song came out of that, and that's
Right.
like
Oh yeah.
that's what launched the CDs sales and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, and like we had said, it has its own. It had a text-based adventure game. It then had a flash game. There's also a board game. I've played the Trogdor board game.
Was it any good?
Yeah, how was it?
I think it follows. Yes, it's a tile-based game, and Trogdor moves in different directions, and you don't want to have your peasant or your cabins burninated. But the flash game that came out of it was, you are a peasant and you need to be.
Dude, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say,
I'm so excited. I love this game.
The flash game was like you had to be you were a peasant and your goal was to be dirty and on fire.
Did you play that game?
Yes.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that game. That was so. The commercial that they did for it too was really
Mhm.
good. It was like now I forget. It was like, oh, it was you are rather dashing, a peasant in the countryside, and it's like the guy. It's like they were lampooning like the 80s PC games, and the guy playing the peasant is like yelling at a king, and he's like, "You're out of league, or you're out of order, my liege." And something is like, "Rather dashing, you will not sass back in this court." And there's a part where one of the jokes there's like a lot of hidden things you can do in the text-based adventure, and you get a baby as like an item, and one of the things that you have to do is throw the baby in the river.
Yes.
but like you would never know to do that. So when they did that, they like made it a joke in the like fake advertisement, and they show the guy like he's saying out loud, "Throw baby."
Yep.
For those of babies listening, dead baby jokes were a large part of internet humor in the early 2000s. And if you don't know what a dead baby joke is, I'm sorry for your internet history after you go looking for them.
Yeah, just don't. It was a different trying to be edgier time.
Go ask the cashier at your local gas station. I'm sure he'll tell you one.
Yeah. So Trogdor the Burninator became its own thing, which is, again, I think, Andrew, you probably nailed it. This was the first thing that really like blew up. The third, I guess, property that I thought was really, really good. And I went back and watched it, and it's actually not that good anymore. It's way better to think about it than to actually go and try to consume it. And that was Teen Girl Squad, which just me saying those three words, you probably hear it in your brain if you've ever watched Teen Girl Squad, because it sounds more like Teen Girl Squad. and this is, again, more Strong Bad centered content that came from a Strong Bad email. Someone had emailed in, "Can you draw a comic about me and my friends?" So Strong Bad drew a comic about four quote stereotypes, I guess, going to the mall to try and find boys. And so the four characters were the cheerleader, so-and-so, what's her face, and the ugly one. And again, like, this is your edgy internet humor.
Yeah.
Man, I watched 2 episodes today, and I was like, all right, I get it. I get what you were going for. Like, the humor is, the humor was in like the things that were happening in the background that weren't like the focus.
It was definitely like, I think my earliest it was like Tim and Eric before Tim and Eric. Like it was I think the internet's first major foray in like absurdist humor. Like the one episode, I think the first one that they did was like, the line is like, "I have a crush on every boy," and then there's just like a large man's face appears behind, and there's just arrows coming out of his mouth.
Yeah,
and the line is "arrowed," and you're like, "What?" And it was just very like that, very fun absurdist. What the fuck is going on humor?
Mm-hmm. Well, so this is fun reading up more about this today, because flavor texts are these things where we get to dive in on weird, cool stuff that apparently Matt and Mike in an interview shared that part of their drive to do this as an ongoing series was to bring more female characters into their content. Which, like, if that was the goal achieved, subnote,
we've come a long way, Todd. Come a long way.
Yeah, like you technically did it. And so I put, in here, it's just silly, nonsensical content. One thing I didn't know, though, was that Teen Girl Squad brought upon another spinoff called Four Gregs. And Four Gregs is about the Teen Girl Squad's nerdy classmates who are all named Greg. But they're like 4 different kinds of nerdy. One of them is D&D Greg. And one of them is like JavaScript Greg. And one of them is like owns swords Greg or whatever.
I think that's all the same person.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You never see him in the same
We
place
all
at
knew
once.
an own swords Greg, didn't we?
Yeah. And if you didn't, you were. And so it's funny because it's also done in the Strong Bad doing a woman's voice, doing a man's voice kind of thing. And again, follows the same exact setup as Teen Girl Squad. There are other ones I didn't bring up. There's one that I didn't know way back when, and I've listened to lately that I thought I enjoyed a bit more, was Marzipan's voicemail. So it's like a 30-minute long thing of just the characters leaving Marzipan voicemails. And I think it was their creative outlet to do something that required barely any animation and just do funny one-liners from their characters.
Just dump all their jokes they couldn't fit into actual sketches. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I 100% agree. And it's fun. I mean, it's not something I would necessarily seek out now, but if you're looking for that Homestar Runner nostalgia in like quick little bites, like that's a really good one. But yeah, that is. I mean, and like I said, to this day, they are still putting out content every couple of weeks, which is super cool. Still obviously active, doing work, and it. This is so pleasant. This is just such fun and good. Well, largely fun and good content that just takes you back to like the early days of the internet. But in the end, that was kind of what I pulled up. That was the best that I could find. What's good here is that I'll link in the show notes. Like I said, a lot of the things we talked about today, there is on the homestarrunner.com YouTube page. They've put together some of their favorite videos in like a playlist called favorites. And so a lot of these things, obviously, you can find in there just because they're so good. They're some of the best ones are timeless, in my opinion, aside from maybe some bad audio.
I wouldn't even call it bad. It's just a relic of its time, because like
Sure.
that was the audio you could capture for your
Yeah.
online Flash. Like that's all Flash could put out at the time. It's not that like if they had better gear, they could have done it. We were all listening to like 80 kilobyte files. Like that's what the internet was just a
Yeah.
patchwork of tiny MP3s.
It's bad audio in the way like 8 tracks are bad audio.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's what I've got. Do you guys have any thoughts that you thoughts, feelings, quotes that you want to share about Homestar Runner?
There's another good one that I really like that popped into my head while you're doing this. There is a Strong Bad email. I think it was called Children's Book, and it was Strong Bad takes writes a children's book, and he like writes stuff over top like an actual children's book.
Yes.
And it's like there was a part where it's like the original words were like no two people are the same or something like that. It was like everybody is different, and he rewrote it to say everybody is on fire was like the and then like the last page was like no two people are not on fire. Aw. I love that.
I think it may be kind of important to note, like, if you're super not familiar with Homestar Runner and their content, and you're used to our flavor texts that tie together the overarching narrative, there ain't one of those. There's no moral at the end of this story. Like,
No.
And that was definitely something that when I got into Homestar Runner 3 years too late, and somebody was like, yo, you got to watch this video. I was like, do I need to watch the videos before it? Like, no, just pick one and go for it. But this was such an important time in internet history before Google bought the fuck out of everything, and like before everything was really like standardized and moved into 3 different search engines. And stuff like this is such a relic, and I hope that podcasts like this one and other ones that look back at old internet stuff help keep the story of this going, because it's such an important, I mean, it was a really formative time in all of our lives, and I certainly wouldn't have the sense of humor that I have now if not for pre-YouTube internet and pre-Google buying YouTube internet. And it's just like,
Yeah.
the internet now, the internet broadly, moves so quickly, and like Twitter's got a new main character every day. You've got to have 6 different apps if you want to look at every social media. Like the shit that I miss because I'm not on TikTok is immense, and it's so much different than it was back then when like, yeah, there was one video that came out this week and it was Dragon, and everybody's going to quote Dragon for the next 7 days until Techno comes out. And then everybody's going to quote Techno for 7 days. And it's a different time, man.
It's funny though, because you talk about like I can't imagine going on Homestar Runner in like 2007 and just seeing this like wall of years of archived content. It's like it's like trying to get into One Piece now. Like you're just not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about this era of the internet is that much like we talk about podcasting is now, weirdly, it's all word of mouth. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
find my way to Homestar Runner. Somebody
Nope.
told me what video to watch
Yep.
and told me where to go. And that's part of the reason that as someone who got to Homestar Runner late, I haven't seen half of the series because somebody introduced me to Homestar Runner as Strong Bad emails. So I've seen most of the Strong Bad emails, but I haven't really watched anything else because that wasn't what I found when I found Homestar Runner.
I would agree with that as well, but I remember it was my buddy Matt, who was also on the newspaper, that introduced me to Homestar Runner, because he's very online, and he was very online in 2004, and so I think I had to go back and look for Homestar Runner videos because I was more familiar with Strong Bad emails. That's why I could, I found it was like looking in a bag for things, I think was the title of the video of trying to get Homestar Runner to get water for Strong Bad. But I mean, all of my closest nerdy friends from high school, if you ask them about Homestar Runner, they would say, "Oh, that's a great Georb you did there." Like that's the quote that they'll give you. Because again, this is like in my space as a nerd, my formative years, like becoming a nerd in high school, this is a core memory. Like this is one of the 5 marbles that I get to look at was Homestar Runner early internet.
I'm really glad. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to ask the question, like, if I think of things that have similar energy to homestarrunner.com that aren't early internet based, the first thing I think of is Kablam, because that was kind of my first introduction to absurdist humor. And I was just going to ask the question, is it fair to say that Kablam paved the way for Homestar Runner as absurdist sketch animated comedy?
I would say most of that like avant-garde Nickelodeon content was like Ren and Stimpy and even that era of stuff was the gateway. But yes.
And it's worth noting that, I mean, Mike and Matt from the actual Homestar Runner creation group probably ended up partnering with some of those people.
Yeah.
Like those are people they probably looked up to.
Yeah.
Or interned with.
I'm really glad we got to do this look back on more Flash era internet culture. It's a very, I mean, we all are steeped in that. I just missed Homestar Runner entirely. So I'm glad Matt, Andrew, and Todd got to relive that for this. But that's why I didn't have much to say today.
Well, and with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Thanks for listening to Debate This. You can follow along, as always, with the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Debate This Cast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. And once more, thank you so much to our longtime member of Butt Thwomp Nation, Master Spectre, for giving us the opportunity to go back and kind of relive some of these early formative nerdy years in the young and budding and still innocent internet. Until next time, I'm Todd Thomas.
I'm Matt. The system is down. Cole.
I'm Kyle, and the Homestar keeps running. Harper.
And I'm Andrew. Good Apollo. I'm burninating the countryside for : from fear through the eyes of peasants. Henderson.
And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.